Don't you? That sudden, inexplicable pull in the center of your chest, a weight that isn't quite yours, but feels entirely your responsibility. You are walking through your day, perhaps sitting in silence, and a face comes to mind. A specific person. Maybe it is a friend in deep financial despair, a relative facing a health crisis, or even a stranger you crossed paths with who seemed surrounded by a heavy, dark cloud. The world tells you, this is pity. The religious traditions you may have grown up with might call this a burden of intercession, a command from the external God to fall to your knees and beg for mercy on their behalf. But you are here because you are ready for a deeper truth, a truth that empowers rather than exhausts. The command to help is real, but the method you have been taught is often inverted. God, which is your own wonderful human imagination, is indeed commanding you to act. But the action is not a frantic struggle in the physical world. It is a radical act of mental restructuring. When this urge arises, it is not a signal to worry. It is a signal that a state is ready to be redeemed. You are the operant power. To truly be the rock for those around you, you must first understand the foundation upon which your own house is built. If you feel that your spiritual foundation needs strengthening, or if you are looking for a clear map to navigate these waters of awakening, I invite you to explore the 3 keys to a prosperous life. This is not just a book. It is a trilogy designed specifically for those who feel the calling, available as both an e-book for deep reading and an audiobook for immersion. It provides the practical framework to awaken to who you really are, heal those invisible blocks that keep you small, and expand with stability. It teaches you how to receive, sustain, and multiply your good without guilt. If you are ready to stabilize your power so you can lift others effectively, check the link in the pinned comment or description to begin this journey. Now, let us return to this urgent command. Why does this person need your help? In the philosophy of the law, there is no separation. Everyone is yourself pushed out. The person suffering in your world is a reflection of a state of consciousness you have allowed to take root, however unconsciously, within your own awareness. To help them is not to lend them money they will only lose again, or to offer advice they are too paralyzed to take. To help them, you must obey the divine command of the imagination. You must see them as they desire to be seen. This is the only true salvation. When the face of this struggling person appears in your mind, do not join them in the mud of their circumstances. If you join them in their grief, you are only adding to the weight of the suffering in the world. You are validating the dragon of their despair, giving it the blood of your attention. Instead, you must become the warrior of the mind. This is the spiritual warfare the chosen ones are called to. It is the battle against the evidence of the senses. Your senses scream that this person is sick, poor, or lost. The medical reports, the bank statements, the tears, they all testify to the disaster. But you, the awakened imagination, you stand still. You shut the door of the senses. You invite this person into the sanctuary of your mind, but you do not invite the version of them that is broken. You revise the scene. You hear them telling you, with the vividness of reality, that the problem is solved. You hear the tone of relief in their voice. You feel the embrace of celebration. You persist in this imaginal act until the anxiety you felt for them dissolves into a feeling of relief, a deep, "it is done." This is how you answer the command. You might ask, is it really that simple? Can my mind change their destiny? Test it. I am not asking you to believe blindly. I'm asking you to be the scientist of your own life. The next time you feel that pang of worry for another, stop immediately. Do not let the thought spiral into catastrophe. Catch that thought, that is your rebellious angel, and transform it. Bring it before the throne of your I am. Replace the thought of their failure with the image of their success. If you have ever successfully shifted a situation for a loved one purely by changing your assumption of them, I encourage you to subscribe and share your experience in the comments. Your testimony becomes a bridge for others to cross. The urgency you feel is actually the pressure of the solution-seeking expression. The solution already exists in the fourth dimension, in the realm of all possibilities. It is knocking on the door of your consciousness, asking to be let in. The person in need is simply the messenger showing you where your creative power is currently blocked. By liberating them in your mind, you liberate yourself. You clear the channel. If you ignore this, if you continue to see them as a victim, you bind them to their sorrow and you bind yourself to the role of the helpless observer. But you are not helpless. You are the Ark. You carry the power to lift every being in your world above the floodwaters of facts and circumstances. Consider the Archangel Michael, often depicted as the warrior throwing down the dragon. Interpret this psychologically. Michael is your disciplined attention. The dragon is the chaotic, fearful evidence of the sensory world that threatens to devour the hopes of your friend or family member. You do not fight the dragon with physical swords. You fight it with the sword of truth, the assumption that I am is the resurrection and the life. You cut off the head of the dragon by withdrawing your attention from the problem and placing it entirely on the solution. You stand firm. You do not waver. You look at the report of sickness and you mentally rewrite it to health. You look at the empty bank account and you mentally fill it. You do this in the silence of your own bedroom, in the quiet moments of your commute. This is the secret charity that the scriptures speak of. When you pray for another, you go into your closet, your inner mind, and you shut the door. You do not seek glory for it. You do not run to them and say, I am visualizing for you. No, you do it in the silence of your own conviction. And because the world is faithful to your inner state, the outer world must reshape itself to reflect this new concept you hold of them. They may get a sudden job offer. The doctor may say it was a misdiagnosis. They may simply find a peace they cannot explain. They will think it is luck or a miracle. You will know it was the law of liberty in action. But be warned, the only enemy to this process is your own doubt. If you imagine them well today, but tomorrow you react to their phone call of complaints by falling back into fear, you have undone your work. You have taken your hand off the plow. To be a chosen one is to have the stamina of faith. It is to hold the vision even when the world mocks it. It is to be the high watchman on the tower. If you are finding value in this instruction, consider liking this video so that this knowledge can find its way to other watchmen who are ready to take their post. Remember, there is no other to change, but self. The person begging for help is a fragmented aspect of your own consciousness, calling out for integration. When you heal them in your mind, you are healing a part of your own soul. You are bringing a shadow aspect back into the light of the I am. Do not delay. The command is act now, because the present moment is the only time creation takes place. You cannot help them yesterday, and you cannot help them tomorrow. You must appropriate the state of their freedom now. Feel the reality of it now. Close your eyes for a moment, even as you listen to this. Bring that person before you. See the heavy lines of worry vanish from their face. See a smile that implies a burden has been lifted. Hear them say the words, I don't know how, but everything worked out. Feel the reality of that voice. Let it thrill you. This thrill is the conception. You have planted the seed. Now your duty is to walk in the confidence that the bridge of incidents will unfold. You do not need to force the physical steps. You only need to remain faithful to the end. This is the true nature of divine intervention. It flows through you. You are the portal through which God, your imagination, redeems the world. Every time you refuse to accept a negative report about another, you are performing a miracle. You are asserting the supremacy of the spirit over the flesh. And as you practice this, you will find that the commands to help become less like burdens and more like opportunities to exercise your divine heritage. You stop fearing the phone calls of bad news because you know you have the tool to revise them. You walk through the world not as a victim of circumstances, but as a master of states. And what happens when you have successfully lifted this person? You will find another command awaiting you, and another. This is the expansion of God. It is an infinite journey of lifting the lower to the higher, but with each act of revision, you become stronger, more stable, and more at peace. The struggle fades, and the Sabbath, the state of rest where you know your work is done, becomes your natural dwelling place. Keep your inner eye clear. The help they need is your clarity. Give them that, and you give them everything. Yet, do not mistake this clarity for a passive state. It is the most active, potent force in the universe. To hold a high state of consciousness when the world around you is crumbling is the true spiritual warfare. It is not a battle against flesh and blood, nor against political powers or external enemies, but against the spiritual hosts of wickedness in heavenly places, which is to say, against the dark, fearful, and limiting thoughts that occupy the high places of your own mind. You are the battleground. The war is won or lost in the silence of your own heart before a single physical event takes place. When you understand this, you stop fighting people and start selecting states. You realize that the person who irritates you is only bearing witness to a state you have not yet extinguished within yourself. This path requires a foundation that is unshakable, for the winds of circumstance will blow and the rains of fact will fall. If you build your house on the shifting sands of public opinion or sensory evidence, it will fall. But if you build it on the rock of your own I am, nothing can move you. To help you establish this foundation, I want to point you toward a specific tool designed for this very purpose. In the description and pinned comment, you will find a link to The 3 Keys to a Prosperous Life. This is not just another book, it is a trilogy, a complete map for those of you who feel the calling but struggle to maintain your footing. It is designed to help you awaken to who you really are, to heal the invisible blocks that keep you in cycles of lack, and to expand with stability. It teaches you how to receive, sustain, and multiply your good without the heavy burden of guilt that so often plagues the sensitive soul. It is available as an e-book for those who study by reading and as an audiobook for those who learn by listening. If you are ready to move from knowing the law to living it, I invite you to explore the 3 keys to a prosperous life. Now, let us return to this concept of the inner battle, for it is vital that you understand the weapons at your disposal. You have heard of the armor of God. You have been told to put on the breastplate of righteousness and to take up the shield of faith. But these are not physical artifacts of metal and leather. They are psychological attitudes. To put on the breastplate of righteousness is simply to wear the feeling of rightness. In the language of the Bible, righteousness is not moral conduct. It is right thinking. It is the consciousness of already being what you want to be. When you assume the feeling of your wish fulfilled, you are wearing the breastplate. It protects your heart, the center of your feeling nature, from the arrows of doubt. If you are feeling wealthy, the arrow of a sudden expense cannot pierce you, for you are protected by the consciousness of abundance. And what of the shield of faith? Faith is not blind hope. Faith is loyalty to the unseen reality. When the world presents you with a fact that contradicts your desire, perhaps a medical report or a letter of rejection, the shield of faith is your ability to deny the finality of that fact. You say to yourself, I see this fact, but I do not accept it as the final truth. My imagination has shown me a different end, and I remain loyal to that end. The fiery darts are the sudden panic thoughts that try to set your mind ablaze with fear. Your shield quenches them. You do not fight the thought, you simply raise the shield of the end result. You remember the end and the fear dissolves. Consider the Archangel Michael, often depicted as the great warrior casting down the dragon. In your inner world, Michael is not a separate entity. Michael represents your capacity for disciplined attention. He is the aspect of your mind that can look at the chaos, the dragon of disorder and sensory evidence, and subdue it. The dragon represents the tyranny of the senses. Is the part of you that says, look at the bank account, it is empty, or look at the relationship, it is broken. The dragon breathes the fire of facts. But Michael, your disciplined imagination, stands firm and says, get thee behind me. You cast the dragon down, not by violence, but by withdrawing your attention from the evidence of the senses and placing it entirely on your ideal. This is how you win the war in heaven. You cast the negative imagination out of your consciousness, and it falls to the earth, meaning it dies for lack of attention. If you are beginning to see these symbols not as distant history, but as a present psychology, you are awakening. You are realizing that the Bible is your biography. If this shift in perspective is opening a door in your mind, take a moment to subscribe to the channel. By doing so, you align yourself with this stream of teaching, ensuring that you are constantly reminded of your true nature in a world that is determined to make you forget. We must also speak of the sword, the only offensive weapon in this armor. It is called the sword of the Spirit, which is the word of God. And what is the word? It is your definition of self. It is what you say you are. I am is the sword. When you say, I am healthy, you are thrusting the sword into the chaos and carving out a new reality. But a sword must be sharp. Your definition of self must be sharp, clear and decisive. You cannot say, I hope to be, or I will try to be. That is a dull blade. It cuts nothing. You must say, I am. You must appropriate the state now. The sword divides the true from the false. It separates the man you were from the man you are becoming. Many of you hesitate to use this sword because you feel unworthy. You think, who am I to command reality? Who am I to assume I am wealthy when I have debts? This is the great illusion of the chosen one. You think your humility is a virtue, but in this context it is a vice. It is a denial of the God within you. To deny your desire is to deny the voice of God speaking through you. Your desire is not a temptation, it is a prophecy. It is the promise of what you are capable of becoming. When you feel a desire to be free, to be secure, to be loved, that is not your ego speaking. That is the Father telling you what He wishes to give you. To reject it is to reject the gift. So, how do you wield this power in the mundane details of your week? Let us say you are facing a legal battle or a dispute at work. The dragon appears as an adversary, a lawsuit, or a difficult boss. The natural man wants to fight back, to argue, to hire better lawyers, to manipulate. But you are learning the law. You know that the adversary is only a reflection of a conflict within you. So, you go into the silence. You enter your inner closet and shut the door, which means you shut out the sensory evidence. You close your eyes to the physical world. In this silence, you bring the adversary before your mind's eye, but you do not argue with them. You revise them. You see them smiling. You hear them saying, "It is resolved. We have found a fair solution." You feel the relief of the handshake. You feel the weight lifting off your shoulders. You replay this inner scene over and over until it takes on the tones of reality, until it feels natural, until you can say, "It is done." Then you open your eyes and go about your day. You have used the sword. You have rearranged the structure of the universe. Now, here is the challenge. The physical world may not change instantly. The lawsuit may still be on the docket the next morning. The boss may still be grumpy. This is where the patience of the saints comes in. Patience is not passive waiting. It is active endurance. It is the refusal to accept the appearance as final. You must know that there is a time interval between the imaginal act and its physical manifestation. This is the bridge of incidents. You do not know what events must transpire to bring about the resolution. Perhaps the adversary must be fired, or have a change of heart, or find a new opportunity that makes the dispute irrelevant. You do not meddle in the how. You remain faithful to the end. If you find yourself reacting to the old reality, do not condemn yourself. Simply stop, take a breath, and prune the vine. Every reaction of fear or anger is a wild branch growing on your vine of life. Prune it immediately. Say to yourself, that is the old man reacting. I am the new man. Reassert the feeling of the wish fulfilled. If you do this consistently, you will find that the outer world has no choice but to conform. It is a law. It cannot refuse you any more than a mirror can refuse to reflect your face. This brings us to a crucial point about the chosen ones and their relationship with time. You often feel a sense of urgency, a feeling that you are running out of time or that you have missed your calling. This anxiety is a thief. It robs you of the present moment, which is the only place where power exists. God's name is I am, not I was or I will be. When you live in regret of the past or fear of the future, you are not living in the name of God. You are exiling yourself from the throne of power. You must learn to collapse time. In your imagination, there is no distance and no delay. You can be in the future now. When you assume the state of the wish fulfilled, you have traveled in time. You have brought the future into the present. The feeling of it is done anchors that future reality into the now. The more often you visit this future in your mind, the more natural it becomes, until one day you realize you are no longer visiting it. You are living from it. The physical world is just catching up like thunder catching up to lightning. The flash has already happened. The sound is inevitable. Consider the story of Daniel in the lion's den. Daniel did not fight the lions. He turned his back on them and looked toward Jerusalem, toward the high ideal, and the lions' mouths were shut. The lions represent the threatening circumstances that seem ready to devour you: debt, illness, loneliness. If you stare at them in fear, you feed them. You give them your life force. But if you turn your back on the senses and look toward your Jerusalem, your state of peace and fulfillment, you starve the lions. Their mouths are shut. They lose their power to hurt you. This is not a fairy tale. It is a psychological instruction manual. But be warned, when you start to turn your back on the lions, the world will think you are mad. They will say you are in denial. They will tell you to be realistic. Do not listen to them. They are asleep. They are dreaming the dream of the senses. You are waking up. You are becoming a conscious creator. Let them sleep. Your duty is not to wake them up by shaking them, but to wake them up by showing them the fruits of your awakening. When they see your life transform, when they see the peace you carry in the midst of the storm, they will ask you for your secret. That is when you teach them. If you are finding the courage to turn your back on your own lions today, let us know in the comments. Write, "My focus is my power." And let this be a declaration to yourself and a signal to others that you are taking control of your attention. There is a subtle trap, however, that the intellectual student of the law often falls into. It is the trap of constant analysis. You analyze your thoughts, you analyze your dreams, you analyze the signs. You become so obsessed with doing it right that you create a state of anxiety. You are constantly checking the soil to see if the seed has sprouted, and in doing so, you disturb the roots. You must learn the art of the Sabbath. The Sabbath is not a day of the week. It is a state of mind. It is the state of mental rest that comes after you have successfully impregnated your subconscious with the desire. How do you know you have reached the Sabbath? You know it when you no longer feel the desperate need to make it happen. You feel a sense of relief. It is the feeling of it is done. When you have truly accepted a state, you do not worry about it. If I were to give you the keys to a new car and you held them in your hand, you would not pace the floor wondering if you have a car. You would be at rest regarding the car. You might be excited to drive it, but you would not be anxious about its existence. That rest is the Sabbath. If you are praying for money, but you are still worrying about bills, you have not entered the Sabbath. You are still in the labor of the 6 days. You must go back to the silence, back to the imaginal act, until you feel the reality of wealth so intensely that the worry falls away. When the worry vanishes, the pregnancy has begun. Then, your only job is to wait with confidence. The child, the manifestation, will be born in its own appointed hour. And during this gestation period, you may experience what seems like a reversal. This is a very common experience for the chosen ones, and it is where many give up. You imagine wealth, and the next day your car breaks down. You imagine health, and you get a cold. You imagine love, and you have an argument. Do not be deceived. This is often the shaking of the foundations. When you introduce a new, powerful state into your consciousness, the old structures must be demolished to make room for the new. The debris must be cleared. Think of it as renovating a house. Before you can install the new, beautiful kitchen, you must tear out the old, rotting cabinets. The demolition phase looks like chaos. It looks like things are getting worse. But if you know the plan, you are not afraid of the dust. You know it is necessary for the new creation. So, when the chaos erupts after you have planted a seed, rejoice. It means things are moving. It means the pot is boiling. Do not run back to the old state in panic. Stand firm in the dust and see the new structure rising. This connects deeply to the concept of revision we spoke of earlier. Revision is not just for the past, it is for the immediate present. If the demolition becomes too messy, revise it. If you have an argument, do not let the sun go down on your wrath. Replay the scene as it should have happened. By doing this, you are softening the blow. You are keeping the energy moving toward your ideal. You are refusing to let the facts harden into a permanent obstacle. You are a gardener of the soul. Your mind is the Garden of Eden. But for years, you have allowed weeds to grow unchecked. Weeds of self-criticism, weeds of limitation, weeds of fear. Now, you are taking up the tools of the gardener. It is hard work at first. The roots of the weeds are deep. They may try to grow back, but with persistence, with the daily application of the law, the garden will change. The flowers of your desire will bloom, and the fragrance of that garden will bless not only you, but everyone who enters your presence. As you walk this path, you will begin to notice that your presence affects others without you saying a word. This is the true meaning of preaching the gospel. You preach with your life, not your lips. You enter a room and the atmosphere changes. People feel calmer around you. Conflict dissolves in your presence. Why? Because you are carrying the atmosphere of the Sabbath. You are radiating the peace of the wish fulfilled. You have become a portal for the divine order to enter the world. This is the destiny of the chosen one, not to conquer the world with force, but to redeem the world with imagination. But remember, the height of your attainment is equal to the depth of your foundation. You cannot build a skyscraper on a shack's foundation. You must dig deep. You must be willing to examine your core beliefs. Do you truly believe you are God's imagination, or do you only hope it is true? There is a vast difference. Hope is a beggar. Belief is a possessor. You must move from hope to knowledge. And the only way to do that is by testing. I challenge you tonight. Do not just listen to this voice and nod in agreement. Pick a specific, small thing, something you have no heavy resistance to. Perhaps receiving a free cup of coffee, or hearing from an old friend, or seeing a specific colored flower. Construct a short scene implies you have experienced it. Enter a drowsy state, akin to sleep. Play that scene over and over until it feels real. Then, drop it. Go about your business. When it happens, and it will happen, your faith will grow. You will have a brick for your foundation. Then you can build bigger. You can tackle the debt, the health, the career. But start where you are. Build the muscle of faith. There is a mystery regarding the time of trouble or the great tribulation mentioned in Scripture. You have been taught to fear this as a future global catastrophe. But I tell you, the great tribulation is the conflict in the mind of the individual who is waking up. It is the friction between the new man you are imagining and the old man you are shedding. It is the psychological turmoil of leaving the comfort of slavery for the uncertainty of the wilderness. When the children of Israel left Egypt, they complained. They wanted to go back to the fleshpots of Egypt. They preferred slavery with a full belly to freedom with uncertainty. You will face this temptation. When the manifestation is delayed, when the bridge of incidents gets rocky, a part of you will want to go back to the old, comfortable misery. At least I knew who I was when I was a victim, you will say. This responsibility of being God is too heavy. This is the test. This is the refining fire. You must refuse to go back to Egypt. You must keep your face set toward the promised land. The wilderness is not a place of death. It is a place of transformation. It is where the slave mentality dies and the sonship mentality is born. The manna will appear. The water will flow from the rock. You will be sustained in ways you cannot predict, but you must keep walking. And as you walk, you will find you are not alone. You will attract others who are on the same journey. Deep calls unto deep. Your state of consciousness acts as a magnet. If you are in a state of victimhood, you attract fellow victims and oppressors. If you are in a state of mastery, you attract fellow masters and opportunities. If you are lonely, ask yourself, what signal am I broadcasting? You cannot change the reflection in the mirror,